A night shift guard takes an easy job at an abandoned county hospital. The halls are empty, but the machines still call names only the dead should answer. Welcome back to the Black Hour Stories. Tonight's title promised a long stretch of real fear, and this first tale brings you into a building that should have been silent forever. A guard takes a shift in an old county hospital, thinking he'll patrol empty rooms and catch a little rest. But the hospital hasn't forgotten the names of the people who died inside its walls, and it hasn't stopped calling them. The county hospital sat alone on a rise above town. It had been closed for almost 20 years, left to peel and rust, and grown its way through the seasons. The boards on the windows didn't keep the wind out. The chain on the main doors hung loose because the last storm had pulled one hinge off. No one had walked the halls legally in years. But the county still needed a warm body to guard it at night, because kids like to break in for dares, and scrappers like to steal old copper. That was how Nolan got the job, night shift guard. Midnight to 6. He didn't care about the pay. He cared about the quiet. He was 2 years out of the service, still waking from dreams that shook him. A dead hospital seemed like the softest place in the world. The first night was easy. He sat in a folding chair by the old nurses' station on the first floor. He read a paperback, drank cold coffee, walked the halls once an hour. The floors creaked the same way all old places do, small, soft, tired noises. Nothing weird. On his second night, he brought a radio. Not a fancy one. Just a small handheld police scanner type that picked up static from different channels. He liked the white noise. It made him feel less alone. Around 1:30 in the morning, the radio cracked and hissed, then played a voice. Old, female, soft, a single word. Next, he froze. Radio static swung back in like nothing had happened. He turned the dial, nothing but white hiss. Then he remembered something. In old hospitals, nurses used to call next when a patient in line outside the exam room was ready. He'd seen it in movies. He told himself maybe he'd picked up an old broadcast bouncing somewhere. He unplugged the radio and left it alone. At 2 a.m., he heard wheels. Not fast wheels, slow, steady, rolling like someone pushing a small cart on uneven tile. He stood from the chair and walked to the intersection of the halls. The sound grew louder. He clicked on his flashlight and shined it down the left wing. Nothing. Just old linoleum buckled from water damage. The rolling sound stopped. When he turned around to head back, he saw a shape at the far end of the other hall. A shadow, thin, upright, a person maybe, but too far to tell. He moved the flashlight toward it. The shape vanished. Not walked away, not ducked into a room. It blinked out like someone hitting a switch. He checked the doors, checked the windows. No signs of forced entry. He laughed at himself and went back to the nurse's station. His hands shook. He didn't like that. Night 3, he kept the lights off. He wanted to hear the building. He wanted to know if the sounds came from pipes or wind. If there was a leak somewhere, that could explain the rolling sound. Water dripping down old pipes can echo in weird ways. He sat in the dark with only the little desk lamp behind him. The building breathed differently tonight. Every hallway felt cooler than the last. The temperature dipped enough to fog his breath. He rubbed his hands together and tried to stay awake. At 1:20, the overhead speaker crackled. He jumped out of his seat and stared up. The speaker above the nurse's station hadn't worked in years. It was rusted around the edges with a thick web over one corner. But it crackled again, and this time the voice was as clear as someone standing next to him. Room 214, a room assignment. He didn't want to check. Every part of him knew he should call it in, say he heard something, and wait outside. But he also didn't want to be the guy who panicked over an old speaker in an old hospital. So he went. The second floor smelled like dust and old tape. The stairwell groaned when he stepped onto the landing. Light from the moon fell through cracks in the boarded windows and made stripes on the floor. He reached room 214, The door stood open. Inside, the tiles were cracked and the windows were rimmed with mold. A broken bed frame leaned crooked against the far wall. There was nothing unusual, nothing alive. He stepped inside. The room exhaled. A cold draft brushed past him like someone sliding by to exit. He smelled something faint, old antiseptic, sharp and sour, the kind used back when hospitals smelled like metal and bleach more than anything else. He backed out. As he stepped into the hallway, he heard the wheels again, slow, rolling toward him. His flashlight flickered once, then steadied. The wheels stopped just outside his beam of light. He forced himself to shine the flashlight forward. The hallway was empty, but the smell of antiseptic thickened. He left the second floor fast. On night 4, he came in tired and worn. Figured maybe his mind was playing tricks. He didn't believe in ghosts. He believed in lonely buildings and suggestion and nerves stretched thin. He told himself the next 6 hours would be normal. At 12:43, the radio crackled again. A man's voice this time, a deep voice with weight behind it. The kind that smokes 2 packs a day. Vitals dropping. Static swallowed the words. Then the radio hissed out a long, steady tone. He dropped it. The tone kept going even after it hit the floor. A long, high, single beep. The sound monitors make when a heart stops. He kicked the radio. It skidded across the floor. The tone died. Silence filled the hall. He wanted to quit. But quitting meant explaining. And explaining meant saying things he didn't have words for. He stayed. That night the machines woke up. At 1:15, he heard the whir of something turning on. A soft mechanical hum. He followed it down the west wing. The room at the end glowed faintly blue under the door. He pushed it open. An old heart monitor sat on a metal cart, screen cracked, dust thick around the buttons. None of it was plugged in, wires curled up like dead vines. And yet, the screen lit. A pulse line crawled across the display. A slow, steady beat filled the room. He stared. The heartbeat on the monitor matched his own, every pulse in his chest. Every thud. Perfect sync. He reached out and touched the metal cart. It was ice cold. The monitor beeped faster. His heart matched. He backed out of the room and slammed the door. The beeping continued for a full minute, muffled by the door. Then, slowly, it fell quiet. He didn't tell anyone. Night 5, the worst. He came in early, planning to stay near the entrance. No wandering tonight. No patrols. If something wanted him, it could do it from 20 feet away in plain sight. He sat with his back against the wall near the main doors. At 11:58, the overhead speaker crackled again. This time the voice wasn't calm. It screamed. A sharp, ripping scream full of pain and fear and something else, anger. The scream cut through him like a blade. He dropped the flashlight. It rolled across the floor. The scream stopped. Silence. Then the speaker whispered. Nolan. He froze. The building knew his name. He didn't breathe for almost 10 seconds. He grabbed his phone and called the security supervisor. The call rang, then went silent. Not to voicemail. Just silent, as if someone pressed a finger over the line. His phone screen flickered, then turned black. He stood. The main doors behind him rattled. Someone or something pushed from the outside. He turned. The chains on the door tightened. The metal groaned. The building shook. Then the chains stopped moving. He backed away. The lights in the hallway flickered. One by one, they went out. Dark spread down the corridor like ink spilling from a bottle. A soft rolling sound followed. The wheels, slow, coming closer. He ran down the east wing, past empty rooms, past old gurneys with broken legs, past peeling paint and cracked tiles. He reached the stairwell, took the steps 2 at a time, reached the second floor landing. He heard footsteps above him. Steady, measured, someone walking the 3rd floor. He didn't want to go up. He didn't want to go down. The hospital wanted him to choose. He chose the second floor again. Better the devil he'd already seen. When he reached the hallway, every door stood open. Room after room, open like waiting mouths. The overhead speaker crackled. "Nolan, room 214. He shook his head. "No," he whispered. The speaker clicked off. The doors slammed shut. Every single one at once. The echo traveled down the hall like a drum line. He stepped backward. Room 214 creaked open by itself. Only that one. Inside, something moved. He felt the air shift. Heavy, pulled, like gravity skewed inside the room. He tried to run. But the hallway lights flickered and died. Complete dark. He felt someone grab his wrist. Cold fingers. Thin. Long. He swung his flashlight. The beam stuttered. Caught a glimpse. A figure in a hospital gown. Bare feet. Face pale and blurred like a photograph smeared with water. The figure leaned close. Its mouth barely moved. "You forgot to check out." He tore free and ran down the stairs. Across the hall. Through the broken main door. Out into the cold night air. He didn't stop running until he reached the fence at the edge of the lot. He turned. The hospital windows were dark. All except one, room 214. A single light burned inside. And in that window stood a shape, watching him. He didn't go back. He quit. No notice, no explanation. He moved to a different county. Different job, different life. For a few nights he slept. Then the calls started. Unknown number. Always at 1 in the morning. When he answered, he heard the sound of wheels, rolling, slow, steady, looking for him. Some places keep working long after everyone inside has died. And some buildings learn the names of the living the same way they remember the dead. Tell us where you're listening from in the comments. And if you heard something in the quiet when that room door opened, give this story a like and subscribe for more from the Black Hour Stories. A simple case of sleep trouble grows into something that follows a man from his bed into daylight. The shadow learns his schedule, his habits, and finally his name. Welcome back to the Black Hour Stories. Tonight's promise was a long stretch of real fear, and this second tale goes after the quiet minutes before morning. A man thinks he's dealing with sleep paralysis, but what holds him down isn't part of any dream. Stay with this one. There's more than breath in the dark when something waits for the moment you can't move. The first time it happened, David didn't think too much of it. It was 3 in the morning. His apartment was quiet, the kind of quiet that only cities know when the bars have closed and the buses have paused. He woke flat on his back with a weight on his chest. He couldn't lift his arms, couldn't turn his head. His eyes stayed open. The ceiling looked the same, hairline cracks, faint streetlight glow through the blinds. He took a slow breath and felt the pressure push down on him, as if some careful hand held him steady. He tried to speak, but the sound stuck in his throat like a swallowed pebble. He could see the corner of the room by the door, where the light from outside made a soft triangle on the floor. Something darker than the dark stepped into that soft patch. It wasn't a shape with edges. It was the absence of everything else. He blinked. When he opened his eyes again, he was free. The weight was gone. He sat up fast, sweating. The apartment looked exactly as he'd left it, dish towel on the chair, laptop open on the counter, a mug next to the sink with a little tea stuck to the bottom. Work in the morning, normal life in every corner. But the pressure on his chest had felt real, solid, measured, almost. He told himself the same thing 1,000 others tell themselves. Sleep paralysis, stress, overwork, the mind half awake and half caught in its own wiring. He believed that right up until the second night. Night 2, same hour, same position flat, arms pinned by nothing he could see. His vision sharpened as if someone had turned the focus dial inside his skull. The corner by the door deepened. That black patch thickened, collecting itself like a shadow deciding it wanted a body. The pressure on his chest changed this time. It wasn't just heavy. It had rhythm like slow breathing. He tried to push against it. Nothing moved. The shape leaned closer, more a tilt in the air than a body, a slant where the room's geometry bent wrong for a heartbeat. He felt warmth on his cheek like a sigh. His right eye teared from the strain of trying to move it. Then he blinked again, and the room snapped back. He could sit. He could breathe in full. The clock on his nightstand showed 3:11. His throat burned like he'd been trying to yell. He didn't sleep the rest of the night. By the third morning, the panic had turned to a tight annoyance. He worked in IT, long hours in a cold building with lights that buzzed. People came to him all day with their small emergencies, their forgotten passwords, their glitchy screens. He listened, fixed what he could, nodded along. But every time he blinked long or rubbed his eyes, he saw that dark shape leaning out of the corner of his memory. He started checking the clock more often than usual, counting down the hours until sleep like a man inching toward a cliff. Night 3 brought something new, no paralysis at first. He slept curled on his side, blanket pulled high under his chin. For a short time he dreamed, but the dream felt borrowed like someone else's old thought. He saw a hallway lined with doors. Each door had a number carved into it. None of the numbers were his. He woke to the sense of someone sitting on the bed. Not lying, sitting, the mattress dipped by his ankles. Breath left him in a shaky push. He didn't move, didn't dare. When he looked toward the edge of the bed, nothing was there. But he felt that weight, warm and deliberate. Something old and patient had learned how to mimic the simple act of sitting. He tried to shift his toes. They didn't move. The shape appeared again, farther from the door this time, closer to him. It hovered in raw stillness, as if the air wrapped around it differently. He couldn't see arms or legs, but he could feel the sense of a posture leaning forward, curious, almost friendly in a way that made his stomach twist. The room's shadows stretched toward it, pulled like threads drawn to a magnet. He blinked, and the pressure vanished. This time his chest hurt, like someone had pressed too hard for too long. He sat up with a gasp and checked his ribs. They were tender under his fingers. By morning his voice shook when he tried to order coffee. The barista asked if he was all right. He lied. Of course he lied. What was he supposed to say? Something watches me sleep. He went to work and found himself counting the shadows under desks, behind racks of hardware, in the corners where the fluorescent lights didn't fully reach. Every dark place felt like a mouth ready to open. On the fourth night he made a plan. He drank strong tea at 10. He set his phone alarm for 2:55. He propped himself up with pillows so he wouldn't be on his back. He watched a comedy show until his brain felt soft. And then he woke at 3:11 anyway, flat, pinned, breath thin. The shape wasn't in the corner anymore. It stood or hovered or existed right beside his bed. The darkness around it was deeper than the rest of the room. He saw nothing of a face, nothing human, but he felt attention. The kind of attention a wild thing gives before it makes its first move. Pressure on his chest tightened. He tried to breathe in, but the breath only filled halfway. His heart banged hard like someone knocking from inside his ribs. The shape leaned closer. A coldness passed over his face. Not the temperature of air, but the cold of being next to something that didn't share the same rules of heat or life. The cold came from inside the shape, like it had no warmth to give it all. He blinked and the room snapped back, just like before. But this time the shape didn't disappear fully. For the first time in 4 nights, it left something behind. A whisper. He didn't hear it with his ears. He felt it at the base of his skull, like someone blowing faint air across nerves. A single word, drawn out, quiet, unmistakable. Soon. He sat up shaking. His mouth was dry, his hands cold. He turned on every light in the apartment and kept them on until dawn. The next morning his co-workers noticed. They asked if he was sick. He said allergies. One said he looked like he hadn't slept in days. He laughed it off. But inside his mind, that whisper replayed. Soon. For the next few nights it didn't come. He slept badly, but no weight, no paralysis. He tried to convince himself it had been stress, that his brain had used some trick to scare him. He started staying at the office late, not wanting to go home. He left lights on in every corner. He opened windows for noise. He let the TV play through the night. Nothing happened. But on the 7th night, something new changed the rules. He was not in his apartment. He didn't remember falling asleep. He didn't remember lying down. He was simply there, standing barefoot on cold tile, in a narrow hallway lit by a yellow bulb. The air smelled faintly of bleach and old paper. The walls were too close, painted a dull institutional white. Doors lined the left side. Each door had a number. The same numbers from his earlier dream. He was dreaming, he told himself. Just another strange half-sleep. He touched the wall. It felt warm. So real it made his breath hitch. Something moved behind the door marked 14. A tap. Then another, slow, precise. He backed away. The hallway stretched behind him, longer than any building he had ever been in, longer than it should have been. Far down that hallway, something stood beneath the buzzing light. A human shape, but unmoving. A silhouette. He whispered, "Wake up." The figure began walking toward him. He turned and ran. His feet slapped the tile, cold burn sharp. Door numbers slid past him, 18, 21, 25, until he found a door with no number at all. He grabbed the handle and yanked it open. His bedroom, not a dream image of his bedroom. His actual bedroom, same blanket, same lamp, same cracked blinds. Something grabbed his ankle as he leapt through. A cold grip, not like a hand. More like a strip of shadow wound tight around him. He kicked hard. His heel struck something solid. The grip fell away. He scrambled across his own floor, slammed into his bed, and when he looked up, the door behind him was gone. Just the wall, blank. He woke the next morning under the blanket, but every muscle in his body felt sore as if he had been running, fighting, twisting. His ankle had a bruise shaped like 4 small ovals. He worked from home that day, staring at the dark line under the bedroom door. Every so often he thought he saw movement, a shift, a change in tone, like something was testing the boundary from the other side. That night he didn't sleep, not even a minute. He sat up with the lights on, watching the corners, listening. At 2 in the morning, nothing happened. At 3, nothing. At 4, silence thickened like a blanket. But at 5:22, his phone buzzed. An alarm he had never set. The screen said, "Wake up." When he picked it up, the time changed, 3:11. The screen flickered. The room dimmed. And the weight hit his chest before he could scream. This time it was crushing. His ribs creaked. He couldn't breathe at all. The shape loomed above him, darker than any shadow should be. Its edges quivered like smoke. He felt arms not arm shapes pressing down. He could hear something now, not a whisper, not a voice, a slow, deep inhale, as if the shape was breathing him in. He tried to move his fingers. One twitched. That gave him a shred of strength. He strained until his left hand slipped an inch off the sheet. The shape froze. Then it leaned so close he felt the cold soak into his bones. And the whisper came again, almost tender. "You're awake." He blinked. When he opened his eyes, the thing was gone, but his body didn't move. Not for 30 full seconds. 30 seconds of lying there like a body waiting to be claimed. Over the next days, the thing changed its pattern. It didn't always show itself. Sometimes he just felt the weight on his chest at random hours. Once in the shower, he felt it press between his shoulder blades, pushing him forward until his forehead hit the tile. Once in the grocery store, the lights flickered and every single shadow under the shelves stretched toward him like hands. And once, while he sat on the bus, his reflection in the window didn't move when he did. It sat perfectly still for a beat too long, Then it smiled. He didn't. His reflection's lips formed a word. Soon. He stopped leaving the house after that. Sleep came in snatches, 10 minutes here, 30 there. Each time he woke gasping, clawing, fighting the weight. His ribs ached, his vision blurred. He started writing notes on paper. You are awake, stand up, move your hand. By the 12th night he hadn't slept more than an hour at a time. His mind felt thin, like a sheet left in rain. At 3:11 he woke to the worst silence he had ever heard. A silence so deep at its shape, so heavy it made his ears ring. The air around him thickened like wet cloth. He couldn't move. The weight on his chest came slow this time, like a blanket being laid over him, inch by inch. He felt the pressure along his ribs, along his throat, along the line of his jaw. And the shape rose beside the bed, taller now, more formed, less shadow, more outline. A humanoid thing in the vaguest sense. Shoulders, a head tilted forward. He felt breath leave him. The thing leaned down until the room went utterly black. It pressed its forehead to his, not cold this time, warm, human warm. A voice filled his head in a way that felt like drowning. No more nights. His vision blurred, and he felt himself pulled backward, not into sleep, but into something behind sleep. Something cold, wide, and hollow. He thought he heard doors opening. The hallway. The numbered doors. A soft tap from behind one. A whisper of movement behind another. And then the shape spoke again. You're coming where you can't wake. He forced himself to scream. Forced every ounce of life into that breath. The sound tore out of him like breaking glass. The room snapped open. Lights on, air normal, the pressure gone. For a long time he lay there shaking. Then he did the only thing he could think of. He packed his bags. He didn't care where he went. Somewhere far, somewhere bright, somewhere crowded. He got in his car, drove until dawn. Stopped at a rest area, slept sitting up in the driver's seat. He woke at 3:11, in full daylight, pinned, paralyzed, and in the mirror of the passenger side visor, he saw the shape sitting in the back seat, head bowed like someone waiting for him to finish struggling. He blinked, and this time, nothing changed. Some things learn your habits, notice your weak moments, and wait for the part of the night when your guard is lowest. Tell us where you're listening from in the comments. And if you felt the room tighten when the clock hit 3:11, like something watching your breath, give this video a like and subscribe for more from the Black Hour Stories.